What's up, gente? Welcome back to Stan Sports, your home for Spanish football conversation. It's Friday morning, and we've just had a midweek Laliga round. It seems a little bit weird, but games are coming thick and fast this season. We're gonna have another one over the weekend, so I thought we're gonna start a new section on Fridays. We're gonna look at some Spanish newspapers, look what the current topics are, discuss them, preview a little bit, of course, the round coming up on the weekend. Today we got Marca only. I was supposed to get a sport as well, so we have a Barca-based newspaper, but we're gonna go through a little bit more Madrid bias, but touch some of the talking points. Of course, I want to hear your feedback in the comments. Let me know your take as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course, on here. Marca starts off, talking about the big challenge that Real Madrid is gonna have in the next 2 weeks. They have 6 games on the calendar. They have to wrap up their Champions League, which, to be fair, they only need a point to do so. They gave games against the revived Sevilla this weekend. We know Sevilla, after San Paulo's come in 2 weeks ago, he's a little bit steadied the ship, and they haven't lost since he's been back at the club. They won over the weekend. A great strike by Nemanja Gudel, who's back in the midfield. Their good run coincides with, of course, Marca finally starting to play, the summer signing. He looks like a figure in that back line that might make a difference, a bit of a leader, a bit of a solid big body presence in that back line, something that Sevilla's sorely been missing. They are going to miss Nzianzu, though, for this weekend. The French defenders got injured and he will be out. Real Madrid, of course, winning 28 out of their 30 points, still unbeaten in the league. Taking care of that game at Elche, scoring goals. I think 2 of their goals got disallowed by the VAR. Still, though, by winning pretty by the 3-0 scoreline. And Marca is focusing, rightfully so, on Fede Valverde. He's having an amazing season. An explosion is how I would sum up this season for Fede Valverde, because we all knew, the qualities that he brought into the midfield and kind of the legs that he gives Kroos and Modric, but this season he's been scoring the goals as well. 5 goals already in Laliga, 3 of them outside the box, which he scores in El Clasico. Of course, we remember in that Champions League final was his run that set up Vinicius' goal, and over the weekend at Elche, again, another goal outside the box. The Uruguayan, showing that, he can deliver, and he mentioned in his post-match interview that Carlo Ancelotti's kind of challenged him this season, set a little bit of a target of 10 goals. He's halfway through already, 2 months into the season. So great to see, Fede Valverde finally getting the credit he deserves. And he's going to be in that World Cup. Watch out for Uruguay, of course. They have a nice little squad of young players. Unfortunately, Ronald Araujo might be missing that World Cup, but still an Uruguayan side that has a good mix of youngsters and old heads. 6 goals in all competitions for Fede Valverde, the second highest goal scorer after Benzema. Unbelievable. Marco also remembers the 14-15 season that might serve as a bit of a healthy reminder for Real Madrid not to relax after their great start, because that was the season where they got a similar tally after the first 10 games, but then they ended up kind of missing out on all the trophies at the end of the season, mainly due to the Luka Modric injury that suffered that season. Ancelotti was also ahead of Real Madrid at that time, so I'm sure it's fresh in his memory as well. But of course, Real Madrid has the challenge to keep that winning streak, take care of those 4 La Liga games until the World Cup, because we never know what's going to happen, right? There's going to be injuries, there's going to be maybe players that's going to be tired after, so they really need to make the maximum. Marca talking about the 4 goals that have been disallowed in the last few games for the Frenchman. Good to see him get a goal as well against Elche. I think him getting 2 consecutive goals now in El Clasico and in this game is going to give him a bit of confidence, because after the injury he's been a bit rusty and he hasn't been fit 100%, but now back on the score sheet, that will do a lot for his confidence. Courtois is doing some tests and expected to be back in the squad this weekend and perhaps start against Sevilla, so great news for Madridistas on that front as well, even though let's big up Andre Lunin because he's done really, really well. Went through a Clásico without any major mistakes, kept a clean sheet at Elche, even though there was a lot of pressure on him in the second half. So the young Ukrainian really taking on the challenge and making a name for himself. As a Madrid newspaper, you know that Marca is also going to talk about Atletico. There's been a big topic now in the newspapers for the last few weeks, Joao Felix and his unhappiness and, of course, his agent. We know Jorge Mendes, how he deals with things. He's going to be wanting to probably move Felix on if he really is unhappy. And of course, after 3 seasons at Atletico Madrid with the big kind of bid that Atletico paid for him, there's been a lot of expectations of the young Portuguese. He hasn't found really form with Colchoneros. Some people are blaming, of course, Simeone, his system that doesn't suit him. Others are, blaming the player that he hasn't really stepped up to the plate, taken on the challenge. We see this season that, the preferred front two is probably Morata and Griezmann. Griezmann, who's been kind of back scoring goals after finally agreeing a deal between Atletico and Barca. He can finally start a game, which was kind of ridiculous in the first few rounds. He scored at Athletic Bilbao and, came out, talked about, apologized to the fans for the whole shenanigans with Barca, that, he's a changed man, that he's going to try to win their trust again. And I think Atleti fans are kind of forgiving him at this point, and the only way that he's going to be fully forgiven and everything's going to be forgotten if he scores important goals this season, because Atletico Madrid, we know they have their work cut out in the Champions League. They need to get results away to Porto, something that they didn't need to do last season in a controversial game. Still all to play for Atletico. They go to Betis this weekend. Betis that's going to be without Canales, who got absolutely the silliest of red cards during the week against Cadiz in the 96th minute. I'm playing to Mateo Laos, someone that's notorious for giving him cards, and got 2 consecutive yellow cards. So Sergio Canales out, Fekir still out, and Betis, I think, are going to have a bit of a problem because Atletico Madrid has been lethal away from home, at least in the league. Then we have a little 2-page spread on Barca, of course. Barca, who managed to get a win last night and bounced back after that loss in El Clásico, 3-0 scoreline against Villarreal. Very convincing win. They scored their goals in about a 7-minute spell in the first half, where Lewandowski scored 2 great goals and Ansu Fati added another one, continuing his great form from the El Clásico, where he came in the second half and changed a little bit the momentum of the game. Here, starting, getting some important minutes under his belt. We know, he's a class player, Ansu Fati, and he's probably one of Barca's most important players and a Barca starter if he's 100% fit. So hopefully he can keep this form going, because as we know, Barca has a very tough schedule as well. They need to play Athletic Club. They need to come here at Valencia and play at Mestalla, Valencia that's kind of reinvigorated this season. So it's only going to get more difficult in the Champions League. We know how difficult the situation is. They depend on Inter having a misstep against Victoria Pilsen, which is very unlikely, and then they have to take care of business and beat Bayern Munich. So it looks like Europa League, but at least they managed to kind of please their fans a little bit, a bit of consolation win, and continue chasing Real Madrid in that Laliga table. Now second, just 3 points behind them. Lewandowski, 11th goal of the season in 10 games in La Liga. Unbelievable start for the Polish number 9. And again, the way that he scored his goals, you can tell this guy just, his movement in the box is second to none. With the first goal, kind of getting away from 2 defenders, finishing confidently, and then the second one outside the box. Just leave him a bit of space. He's going to curl that ball right into the top corner, as he did. No chance for Jeronimo Rui to get to that. But of course, Barca's problem is not up front. They can score goals. They've shown that. They play effective football up front, is defensively. In this game, they got away with it. Marcos Alonso had to step in as a center back, someone that I don't really like to see in that position, to be honest. And Jordi Alba did his job on the left. And of course, Jules Koundé, who's played as a center back, he's Barca's best defender at the moment, without a shadow of a doubt. And if he's 100%, he's the first name. Whether he starts in the center of the defense, whether he plays on the right, he's a quality player. And I'm going to be watching him with France at the World Cup. Villarreal, though, undoubtedly affected by the passing of their vice president, Jose Manuel Llaneza. My condolences congratulations goes to him. Very important figure in the history of Villarreal, someone that brought the current president, Fernando Roig, to the club and helped the club kind of build itself. We know Villarreal in the past 20 years has become a European powerhouse, and this is a team from a small town of 40,000 people. Even Unai Emery in the press conference saying that it has affected the players a little bit. It's not an excuse for the loss, but it's inevitable that it's had some kind of impact on the whole club. It's good to see the minute of silence, of course, from the two clubs at the start. Some interesting stats here for you. The assists in Laliga, Mikel Merino and Rodrigo in first place with 4 assists. The fouls committed, Gavi is actually leading the line. Muniain, the most fouled player in La Liga. Mikel Merino has had the most recoveries, and Edgar Bardia from Elche with the most saves, 47. In terms of the Pichichi, as we said, Lewandowski leading the line with 11 goals. Then a Spaniard, Joselu, who's hit the ground running at his new club, Espanyol, continued his goal-scoring form from Alaves last season. Borja Iglesias as well on 7 goals, someone that we're going to be seeing at the World Cup with Spain. And Iago Aspas in 6. And then we have Benzema, Bryce Mendes, another player that's played really well in his first season, and Morata and Valverde, of course, with 5. Looking forward to the weekend. As we said, Real Madrid hosts Sevilla tomorrow night. That will be a very, very interesting game. Real Madrid expected to win, but as we said, Sampaoli has managed to at least limit the goals that they concede per game. Let's see if they can get a result. I highly doubt it, to be honest. But Betis against Atleti on Sunday, another derby for that Champions League spot. Betis disappointing a little bit midweek. New draw at Cadiz, somewhere that they're expected to pick up the points if they want to get into those Champions League positions. And Atletico Madrid, as we said, they do really well away from home, even though they missed out on the points after Falcao scored that penalty in the last minute midweek for Rayo to get a point at the Civitas Metropolitano. But away from home, as we said, they're pretty solid this season, and I expect them to actually beat Real Betis at Villamarin. I think Canales will prove a big miss. Even though, to be fair to Joaquin, he's been playing really well in the last few weeks. He gave an assist to Borja Iglesias last weekend. We have Rayo against Cadiz, Valladolid against Real Sociedad. Real Sociedad has been on a good run as well, even though they've been missing some important strikers. The likes of Bryce Mendes, as we say, have been playing well. Girona against Osasuna, Espanyol against Elche, Valencia hosting Mallorca, and Villarreal against Almeria. Villarreal needs to bounce back at home and get the 3 points. Barça against Athletic Club, another club in form that goes to the Camp Nou, and it's going to make life difficult for Barcelona, hopefully more difficult than what Villarreal did. And Ceuta against Getafe. That's all from today's newspaper review, guys. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this weekend? What's your predictions, of course, for some of the big games? And don't forget to like, subscribe, show support for the channel, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.
Yo, what's up? Hey, subscribe to Stan Sports. I'm pointing at him. You can't see him. But yeah, subscribe. Good content, good guy. Yeah, keep it up, bro.